Hello, today I'm looking at Majjhima Nikaya number 56, which is entitled the Upali Sutta and it's translated as To Upali. And the location is Nalanda in Pavarika's mango grove, and the people mentioned in the text are Buddha, and there are three others who are all followers or associated with the Nikaya tradition, which is now known as the Jain sect, which still exists in India. And the three folk are Nikaya Nataputta, who's the leader or one of the leaders of the sect, Digha Tapasi, who's a follower of Nikaya Nataputta, and Upali, who's a householder of the Nikaya Nataputta tradition. So, if you like, there seems to be three levels of observance of the Nikaya tradition. So, the Nikaya Nataputta himself, Digha Tapasi, and Upali. So the sutta starts with, there was a large assembly of Nikayas staying at Nalanda, and when one of them, Digha Tapasi, returned from alms round, he went to Pavarika's grove to talk with Buddha. And Buddha asked him, Tapasi, how many types of activity do the Nikayas describe for the performance of evil action, for the perpetration of evil action? Gautama, Digha Tapasi replied, the Nikaya Nataputta is not used to using the description activity. We more use the word punishment or cudgel. So the word actually used in the text is danda, which is translated as being a rod or punishment or stick or cudgel. So cudgel seems to imply a rod used for punishment. So I just noted that in Buddhism the word used is sort of a neutral word, which like activity, whereas the Nikaya word implies wrongdoing. Anyway, so Buddha replies, how many different cudgels are there for the performance and perpetration of evil action? There are three types, Tapasi replies, the bodily cudgel, the verbal cudgel, and the mental cudgel. And which one is the most reprehensible for the performance of evil action? Asked Buddha. The bodily cudgel is the worst, Tapasi replies. And you, Gautama, Tapasi continues, how many cudgels do you define for the performance of and perpetration of evil action? Well, Buddha responds, we do not call them cudgels. We use the word activity. Okay, so how many kinds of activity do you describe for the performance of evil action? Tapasi, there are three kinds of activity: bodily activity, verbal activity, and mental activity. And which activity, friend Gautama, do you define as the most reprehensible? Buddha replies, the worst is mental activity. Buddha is then questioned to repeat this assertion 3 times. Just as Tapasi was questioned to repeat his assertion 3 times. So basically saying that in the Nikaya tradition, bodily is the worst activity, and in the Buddhist tradition, mental activity is the worst tradition, or most reprehensible. So it goes on. With these statements made, Digha Tapasi returns to the Nikaya Nataputta, who was seated together with a large assembly of laymen, headed by a person called Upali. Tapasi relates his conversation with Buddha, and the Nikaya Nataputta asserts what Tapasi said, that the bodily cudgel is much more reprehensible than the trivial mental cudgel. The layman Upali also agrees and declares his intention to go to Buddha, and with his strong debating skills refute Buddha's statement about mental action being the most reprehensible. Tapasi does not think it is a wise idea for a layman to go to Buddha, as Buddha has magic skills by which he converts followers of other sects. But the Naganta disagrees. Upali will not go over to Buddha. However, a Buddha might come over to them. Again, this conversation is repeated 3 times. Tapasi repeating his concerns 3 times, and Tapasi's concerns being refuted, excuse me, by Naganta 3 times. So the layman Upali goes to the mango grove to meet with Buddha, and on sitting beside Buddha, he asks Buddha to recount the conversation he had with the Naganta Tapasi, which Buddha does. Then says, and what do you think, Upali? Say a Naganta is gravely ill, but because of his beliefs, he refuses cold water, which might contain living creatures. He will only use hot water, but because he refuses cold water, he might die. Now, where would the Naganta define his rebirth? Upali replies, there are gods called mind-bound. He would be reborn there. Why? Because when he died, he was still bound to earthly ways by his mind. Even so, although the Blessed One had spoken thus, the bodily cudgel is still the most reprehensible for the perpetration of evil action, not so much the verbal cudgel and the mental cudgel. So it appears, although Upali is agreeing with Buddha that it's the mental issue that caused the problem, Upali is still saying that it's the bodily cudgel or rod or whatever is the most reprehensible. So Buddha responds, so what do you think, householder? Here some Naganta has 4 restraints, is punctilious, following all the rules, and yet when wandering about he destroys many small living beings. What result does the Naganta describe for him? The householder of Pali replies, Naganta does not describe what is unintended as reprehensible. But, asked Buddha, what if it were intentional, this destruction of other beings? Then, says Pali, it is greatly reprehensible. But under which of the 3 cudgels does the Naganta then describe the intention or volition? Under the mental cudgel, Venerable Sir. So again, Buddha makes the point that even though harm is caused by bodily action, the root cause of bodily action is the mental intent or action. So then Buddha goes on to say, householder, what do you think of the town of Nalanda? Is it successful, prosperous? Is it populous or crowded with people? Yes, Venerable Sir, it is. So what do you think, householder? Suppose a man came here brandishing a sword and spoke thus, in an instant I will slay all the townsfolk. What do you think what do you think, householder? Could the man do this? No, Venerable Sir, not even 50 men could slay all the townsfolk in an instant. Well, householder, suppose some recluse or Brahmin with supernormal powers and mastery of mind came here and said, I will reduce the town of Nalanda to ashes with one mental act of hate. What do you think, householder? Could such a recluse or Brahmin do this? Indeed he could, replied Upali. He could destroy Nalanda with one mental act of hate. But, replies Buddha, what you have just said does not agree with what you said before. Upali persists. Although the Blessed One has spoken thus, the bodily cudgel is the most reprehensible for the performance of evil action, not so much the verbal cudgel or the mental cudgel. Consider this, Buddha then says. Have you heard how the Dandala, Kalinga, Menja and Matanga forests became forests? Sorry, that's Dandaka, Kalinga, Meja and Matanga forests became forests? Yes, Venerable Sir, I heard they became forests by means of a mental act of hate on the part of seers. Buddha responds, so once again, what you are now saying disagrees with what you said before. Venerable Sir, Upali replies, I was satisfied and pleased by the Blessed One's first simile. Nevertheless, I thought I would oppose the Blessed One, so I could hear the varied solutions to the problem. Magnificent, Venerable Sir, the Blessed One has made the Dhamma clear in many ways. Let the Blessed One remember me, a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. Buddha replies, investigate thoroughly. It is good for well-known people such as yourself to investigate thoroughly. So he's just saying, well, don't just take my word for it. Investigate it. Investigate what's been said. Venerable Sir, Upali replies, I am pleased to hear that. Other sectarians would just boast that the well-known householder Upali has become a follower. But on the contrary, the Blessed One tells me, investigate thoroughly. It is good for such well-known people to investigate thoroughly. Upali again commits himself to the three refuges. So again, it's just saying, don't accept dogma, investigate. Buddha carries on. Householder, your family has long supported the Nagantas, so consider continuing to give them alms when they come. Upali is very pleased to hear Buddha say this. For what Upali has heard previously is that Gautama has said thus, gift should only be given to me, not others. Only what is given to me, or my followers, bears merit for the giver. But Upali continues, on the contrary, the Blessed One encourages me to give gifts to the Nagantas. So for the third time, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma and the Sangha. Then the Blessed One gave Upali the householder progressive instruction, a talk on giving, virtue, on the heavens. He explained the danger, degradation and defilement in the sense pleasures, and the blessing of renunciation. Once the Blessed One knew that Upali's mind was ready, receptive, free from hindrances, elated and confident, he expanded to him the teaching special to the Buddha, suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path. So just as a clean cloth will take dye evenly, so too, while the householder Upali sat there, the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma arose in him. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. Then Upali saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma. He crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained intrepidity, and became independent of others in the teacher's dispensation. After this, Upali returned to his own house and tells his doorkeeper that the house is now open to followers of Buddha, as he, Upali, has gone over to Buddha's teaching, the door is now closed to Nagantas. The Naganta Digga Tapasi heard that Upali had become a follower of Buddha and went to Naganta Naputta to tell him. Naganta Nataputta believes, sorry, I'll just start that paragraph again. Naganta Nataputta believes Digga Tapasi has the story mixed up, that in fact Buddha has probably come over to be a follower of the Naganta. This conversation goes back and forth 3 times. In the end, Digga Tapasi is instructed to go to Upali's house to find out what has happened. So the Nagantha follower, Digga Tapasi, goes to Upali's house, where he is told by the doorkeeper not to enter, for Upali has become a follower of Gautama and has closed the door to Nagantas. If you wish for alms, wait here. I do not wish for alms, responds Digga Tapasi, but returns to Naganta Nataputta, tells him what has happened, and that what has happened is, as he, Tapasi, had foretold, that the recluse Gautama, with his magic powers, has converted Upali. Still, Naganta Nataputta does not believe Digga Tapasi, and an argument ensues. This time he, Naganta Nataputta, and his followers will go to Upali's house to find out the truth of the matter. But he too is greeted by the doorkeeper with the same response given to Digga Tapasi, that Upali has become a follower of Gautama, that the door is closed to the Nigantas, but wait here if you wish for alms. Niganta Nataputta instructs the doorkeeper to fetch Upali. That Niganta Nataputta and his many followers have arrived, are standing at the outer gate, and wish to speak with Upali. At the arranged meeting, unusually, Upali sat in the highest seat and bade Niganta Nataputta with his followers to also sit if they wished. Niganta Nataputta responds, "Householder, you are mad. You are an imbecile. You went saying you would refute Gautama's doctrine, and you came back caught up in the vast net of his doctrine. Just as if a man went to castrate someone and came back castrated himself. Just as if a man went to put out someone's eyes and came back with his own eyes put out. Householder, you have been converted by the recluse Gautama and his converting magic." Upali replies, "But that converting magic is auspicious, it is good. In fact, if all the world, all the people, Brahmins, merchants, Maras, Brahmas, were to be converted, it would lead to the welfare and happiness of the world for a long time. Let me give you a simile. There was once a Brahmin who was old and infirm, who had a wife, a young Brahmin girl, who was pregnant and near her confinement. She asked her husband to go to the market to buy a monkey as a playmate for their child. Her husband replied, it would be better to wait to see if the child would be a girl or a boy, so that a girl monkey or a boy monkey could be purchased. A girl monkey if a little girl was born, a boy monkey if a boy was born. The wife asked for a second time and received the same answer. Then later she made the request a third time and received the same answer. But as the man loved his wife dearly, he relented and went to the market and bought a young male monkey. His wife then instructed her husband to take the monkey to Ratapani, the dyer's son. "Tell him," she said, "the monkey is to be dyed yellow, then pounded and repounded until it is smooth on both sides." The Brahmin did as he was asked. But Ratapani, the dyer's son, said, "I am certainly able to dye the monkey yellow, but the monkey will not survive a pounding or a smoothing out." Upali then turns to his audience. "So too, Venerable Sir, the doctrine of the foolish Nigantas with delight to fools will give delight to fools, but not to the wise. The doctrine will not withstand testing or being smoothed out." Upali continued, "On another occasion, that same Brahmin took some new garment to Ratapani, the dyer's son, and told him to dye the garments yellow, pound them and smooth them out on both sides. And Ratapani replied, "I can do that. The garments can be dyed, they can be pounded and can be smoothed out." Upali again addresses his audience. "So too, Venerable Sir, the doctrine of the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened, will give delight to the wise, but not to fools, and it will withstand testing and being smoothed out." Niganta Nataputta then speaks. "Householder, the assembly and king knew that you, householder Upali, as a disciple of Niganta Nataputta. Whose disciple should we consider you to be?" Upali replies by way of a poem. So the poem in the translation that I'm looking at by Nanamoli and Bodhi has been translated to, I think it sounds well in English, but maybe loses some of its rhythm and cadence in translation. So in the original, on the Pali text, it goes Dirasa Vigata Mohasa Pabina Kilasa Vijita Yasa Angisa Susama Chitasa Buddha Silasa Sadhupanasa, and so on and so on and so on. And probably not the best pronunciation. But I'll read through in the text as translated by Nanamoli and Bodhi. So Upali says, "He is the wise one who has cast off delusion, abandoned his heart's wilderness, victor in battle. He knows no anguish, is perfectly even-minded, mature in virtue of excellent wisdom. Beyond all temptations, he is without stain. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. Free from perplexity, he abides contented, spurning worldly gains, a vessel of gladness. A human being who has done the recluse's duty, a man who bears his final body. He is utterly peerless and utterly spotless. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. He is free from doubt and skillful, the discipliner and excellent leader. None can surpass his resplendent qualities. Without hesitation, he is the illuminator. Having severed conceit, he is the hero. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. The leader of the herd, he cannot be measured. His depths are unfathomed. He attained to the silence. Provider of safety, possessor of knowledge, he stands in the Dhamma, inwardly restrained. Having overcome all bondage, he is liberated. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. The immaculate Tusker, living in remoteness, with fetters all shattered, fully freed, skilled in discussion, imbued with wisdom. His banner lowered, he no longer lusts. Having tamed himself, he no more proliferates. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. The best of seers, with no deceptive schemes, gained the triple knowledge, attained to holiness. His heart cleansed, a master of discourse, he lives ever tranquil, the finder of knowledge, the giver of all, the first of all givers. He is ever capable. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. He is the noble one, developed in mind, who has gained the goal and expounds the truth, endowed with mindfulness and penetrative insight. He leans neither forwards nor back, free from perturbation, attained to mastery. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. He has feared rightly and abides in meditation, inwardly undefiled, in purity perfect. He is independent and altogether fearless, living secluded, attained to the summit. Having crossed over himself, he leads us across. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. Of supreme serenity, with extensive wisdom, a man of great wisdom, devoid of all greed. He is the Tathagata, he is the Sublime One, the person unrivaled, the one without equal. He is intrepid, proficient in all. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. He has severed craving and become the enlightened one, cleared of all fumes, completely untainted, most worthy of gifts, most mighty of spirits, most perfect of persons, beyond estimation. The greatest in grandeur, attained the peak of glory. The Blessed One is he, and I am his disciple. And that ends the sort of song of praise that Upali speaks about the Buddha. And Niganta Nataputta then asks, "And when did you make up this song of praise to the recluse Buddha?" "Venerable Sir," replies Upali, "it is like a great heap of flowers that a clever garland maker has knotted into a multicoloured garland. So too the Blessed One has many praiseworthy qualities. So who would not praise the praiseworthy?" Then, since Niganta Nataputta was unable to bear the honour done to the Blessed One, hot blood gushed from his mouth. And on that rather sad note, this there Sutta Majjhima Nikaya number 56 ends. Thanks for watching.